Number 10. Poveglia Island. This place has centuries of horrible history. Like, this place is probably scarier than my bank statement. Poveglia Island is off the coast of Italy, and during the bubonic plague, it was where they would send sick people to die. If you don't know what the bubonic plague is, it wiped out 25 million people. It makes an E. coli outbreak seem like a bad hangover. They would do this to quarantine the sick, and the island would get so populated with people that eventually they would burn the dead bodies or those who were close to dead. It's believed that over 100,000 people have died on this island, so that's probably enough. But wait, there's more! In the early 20th century, they built an insane asylum on the island. I'm assuming they did this so that the ghosts from the plague could finally have some people to talk to. But this wasn't a place where people would go to get treated, it was more a place they would send them to exile them from the rest of humanity. There's even rumors that one of the head psychiatrists working on the island was performing all sorts of twisted experiments on his patients. That's until he killed himself by jumping off the bell tower. The island is now shut down and entry is forbidden. Many locals think that the island is cursed. I would have to say that killing hundreds of thousands of people and experimenting on innocent souls is a good way to get a curse going.
Coming in at number 9, we have Snake Island. With a name like that, who would even want to visit it? And as you probably guessed, it is covered in snakes. This island is apparently home to around 4,000 snakes, most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. If you do, well, chances are you won't make it back alive. Legend goes that a fisherman arrived at the island in search of bananas, but was found days later in his boat, dead in a pool of his own blood. Then from 1909 to the 1920s, a family lived on the island to run the lighthouse. But according to another legend, the entire family was found dead after a group of snakes came into their home and attacked them. So like I said before, you don't ever want to go to this island. Moving on to number 8, we have Area 51. Of course this had to be on the list. Area 51 is a top secret government facility that is illegal for the public to visit. Anyone that does try to trespass can be charged, arrested, or even shot to death. This is what happened to a man in 2019. On January 28th, the man attempted to get into Area 51. He was then chased down by some cars for 8 miles. When he got out of his car, he was shot dead. Another case would be the 2 YouTubers that were arrested in September of 2019 after they tried to sneak into Area 51 and were caught recording the premise. I know we all want to know what really goes on in there, like if they got aliens or whatnot, but curiosity killed the cat. Just saying. In our 7th spot, we have the Devil's Hole. With a name like that, maybe it's best you don't visit it. So the Devil's Hole is located in a national wildlife refuge in Nevada. You can tour the area, but access to the Devil's Hole itself is off limits. They have a sign and a fence guarding the area, and the sign reads as so: due to the scientific importance of this area and its fragile nature, unauthorized entry is prohibited. Yes, they want to protect the ecosystem, but also it is so dangerous to enter there. So Devil's Hole is like a little hole of water. When you dive in, it's filled with complex underwater caverns. Back in 1965, one night a group of 4 friends decided to hop the fence and explore the Devil's Hole. It was Paul, David, Bill, and Jack. Jack was on the lookout while the 3 dove in, but Paul never resurfaced. As a result, David and Bill both went back under to look for him, but then David never resurfaced. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Moving on to number 6, we have RAMREE Island. Tourists are banned from ever visiting this island, because chances are your vacation will take a deadly turn if you decide to go there. This island is home to thousands of saltwater crocodiles, and they weigh around 2,000 pounds. Even the small ones pose a threat to humans. They have the capability of killing someone twice their size. On top of that, they are highly aggressive and will attack anyone that enters their habitat. In fact, the most number of fatalities in a crocodile attack took place at RAMREE Island. In 1945, British soldiers drove the Japanese fighters off the main area of the island, forcing them to flee into the marshy area surrounding the island. One problem: those marshes were filled with hungry crocodiles. As a result, 500 soldiers were killed by these crocodiles. So yeah, maybe don't go to this island unless you want to be crocodile dinner. And of course, there's a number of stories of tourists going to this island and then being attacked and killed by these beasts. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with BOUVET Island. Now here's the thing with BOUVET Island. You can visit it, but it would be a death wish if you did. BOUVET Island is extremely isolated and is almost completely covered by a glacier. Its nearest inhabited land is 1,600 miles away. One way to get there is by boat, but it would take very long and you would be facing extreme weather conditions while doing so. As a result, most expeditions are done by helicopter. Even then, if the weather suddenly changes, you're basically screwed because the island is so remote and far away from other pieces of land. But in 1964, a lifeboat was found abandoned at this island. How did it get there? How could this little boat survive crossing the Southern Ocean? It's a mystery that still baffles many. But also, where did the passengers of the boat go, if they had any? We got no clue, just a couple of theories. And at number 4 we have Vortex Spring. Vortex Spring is known for having pretty complex diving caves, but only those that have a diving certificate or are accompanied by an experienced diver can go there by themselves. In the 1980s, 13 people died in the vortex. There's one area in the underwater caves that are considered so deadly that it's blocked off, and people are prohibited from entering there. It's got this creepy warning sign with the Grim Reaper, and it's often locked with a gate. It's just far too easy for people to get lost and drown in there. But that didn't stop Ben McDaniel. On August 18, 2010, Ben was seen entering the water near the caves and was never seen again. This case is quite strange, like there's a lot of pieces to it. Some say he faked his death because he owed the IRS a lot of money, and also he had a failed marriage, so maybe this was his way of starting over. Or Ben really did get lost in the caves and drowned, but his gear or body have never been found. In our 3rd spot, we have the Bolton STRID. The STRID near Bolton Abbey is said to be the most dangerous stretch of water in the world. Just by looking at it, you wouldn't even think it's dangerous. I mean, the current isn't even that fast. But below the water surface are strong undercurrents that will toss you back and forth against the sharp, jagged rocks until you die. It's also fairly deep and it could just suck you down until you drown. In fact, it has a 100% fatality rate. Everyone that has gone or fallen in have never made it out alive. Their bodies also have never been found. There are a number of stories of people trying to leap across the river only to slip and fall in. In one case, there was a newlywed couple visiting the STRID. However, upon trying to cross the STRID, the bride fell in, and the groom fell in also trying to save her. As a result, there are a number of warning signs all around the area trying to warn people of the STRID's dangers. But of course, a lot of people ignore the signs since the STRID is so deceiving and looks pretty safe. In our 2nd spot, we have North Sentinel Island. The reason why you can't visit this island is because it is home to a tribe that will kill anyone who dares to intrude on their land. They live their own life completely isolated from the rest of the world. In fact, they still live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. But a man named John Allen believed that with the power of God, he would be able to convert them to Christianity and help them. He believed that this island was Satan's last stronghold on earth. So in November of 2018, he headed out to the island. Now, the people that took him there knew of the dangers and really didn't want to, but he was so insistent that they finally gave in. In fact, they were later arrested for doing so. John's first attempt at making contact with them didn't go as planned. As soon as he stepped foot on the island, several men came charging at him, firing arrows. So he fled. But on November 16th, he tried again. He got a fisherman to drop him off alone, and that was the last time anyone had ever seen him. When people went back there for him, they saw the tribe members dragging his dead body with a rope. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Secret Cave. It was the evening of August 17th, 2005, and 5 friends were having dinner together. They were Scott McDonald, J. Blake Donner, Jennifer Lynn Galbraith, Ariel Singer, and Stephen Hunley. While eating, the group got to talking about this secret cave, which was a legend where they were from. It's all about this cool secret cave / hangout spot. Rumor has it that's where human sacrifices were made, etc. But of course, no one thought it was a real cave. That's when Jennifer said that it was real and that she had been there before. The friends, not really believing her, asked her to bring them there. And so they did. So basically, up in the mountains by Brigham Young University, there was this small opening to a cave. The entrance was in the shape of a Y. But in order to get to the secret hangout spot, Jennifer told them they would have to dive down one area through this underwater tunnel to the other side, where there was an air pocket. The tunnel was 15 feet, and the gap they would have to swim through was 20 inches wide. So it was just enough for people to squeeze through. On top of that, someone had put a rope in the water so you could just pull yourself underwater with. So that's what the four of the friends did. Stephen Hunley decided to stay back. He waited for the group for about an hour, then he decided to call for help. And when police arrived, they were horrified at what they saw. So it seems like the group of friends successfully managed to get to the other side, but they couldn't make it back. The police ended up pumping out the water so that they could enter. And that's when they found all four of the friends' bodies stacked up against each other. It seems as if the person leading, who was Jennifer, got stuck on the way out and then she drowned. It would then be impossible to swim over her. So then the second person that went swimming was stopped at Jen's body, and they couldn't get back out because then the third person was coming in. So everyone was just blocked in this small tunnel. Slowly but surely, all of them drowned in this small dark cave. For safety reasons, this cave is no longer accessible.
Well, starting off at number 10, the Shanghai tunnels in Portland, Oregon. Portland was one of the most dangerous ports in the United States during the early 19th century, and it was the epicenter of Shanghai, a form of human trafficking. It's crazy to think human trafficking still happens today, and tunnels are still the way to do it. According to the local lore, swindlers preyed upon unsuspected men in the local salons, which were often outfitted with trap doors that deposited the victims directly into a network of underground tunnels. These men were supposedly held captive, drugged, and eventually transported to the waterfront, where they were sold to ships as unpaid laborers, aka slaves. Some worked for several years before finding their way back home. The tunnels are said to be haunted by the aggrieved spirits of the captives who died in the dark recesses behind the city. Random fact: the practice of kidnapping men to work on ships came to be known as Shanghai because the ships that were sold to were often headed to East Asia.
Number 9. The Paris Catacombs. Why would anywhere in Paris be on this list? I would love to go to Paris. I would just go and eat bread and cheese all day and then start waging war against the mimes. But underneath Paris is the Paris Catacombs, which is house to about 6 million bodies. If you're wondering why, back in the 16th century, Paris had a problem with an overflow of corpses and needed somewhere to chuck them, so they started to put them in an abandoned quarry. This seems like when my room is too messy and instead of actually cleaning it up, I just throw everything in the closet. It took about 14 years to transfer all the bodies from cemeteries to their new homes under the city. Also, the catacombs were just one part of over 200 miles of passageways under the city. This really makes Paris seem much less romantic. If a bunch of dead bodies weren't enough, then I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that since the catacombs were built, many people have gone missing in there. Oh, some people think it's just accidents, but others believe that there's something lurking in the shadows. Number 8. Hoabaciu Forest. Let's go to a forest for a nice picnic and see a bunch of ghosts. Hoabaciu Forest is in Romania and is called the most haunted forest in the world. This place is massive. It covers over 250 hectares. Strange things are constantly happening in this place. People say they've seen ghosts, taken pictures with disembodied faces appearing in them, heard voices, giggling. People who enter the forest will also see physical signs of harm, like rashes, cuts, bruises, burns, nausea. The last bit kind of sounds just like allergies. I mean, you are in a forest. Many locals are too afraid to venture into the forest because of the legends. And if you don't believe in ghosts, then what about aliens? There have been several photos of UFOs flying over the forest. Some people have said they've seen floating balls of light appear out of nowhere. There's even an area in the forest where no vegetation will grow. That forms almost a perfect circle. There have been some tests done on this mysterious circle and it shows slightly higher levels of radiation. This could be because a UFO landed there and that's why nothing grows. Ghosts and aliens, pretty good reason to skip this vacation spot. Number 7. Eastern State Penitentiary, Pennsylvania. If just being a house for some of the most dangerous people who ever lived wasn't enough, I'm gonna give you a few more reasons why you would never want to visit this place. The old abandoned Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania used to be one of the most horrible prisons on earth. Anyone who was sent to this prison would be permanently kept in solitary confinement. You couldn't even make friends. You couldn't talk to people. You couldn't buy cigarettes that were snuck in inside someone's butt. It ruins all the fun of prison. They would go as far as making prisoners wear masks if they were transported from one place to another so no one could see or recognize their faces. As a punishment, some prisoners would be forced to sit in the mad chair, where you'll be strapped down and left there for days without food. Sometimes the straps were fastened so tight that limbs would have to be amputated after because there was no circulation. Since the closure of the prison, there have been 100 reports of ghostly encounters. One from a previous caretaker who said he was grabbed so tight he couldn't move from an unknown force, and then he saw distorted faces appear all over the walls. Number 6. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Back in 1910, there was a tuberculosis epidemic that was sweeping through America. Hundreds of people were dying every day, so in Louisville, Kentucky, they thought about building a sanctuary where everyone could get better. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Almost everyone who got sent up to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium died. Approximately 63,000 people died up there. When things were at their worst, they said that people were dying almost every hour. They had so many dead bodies that the hospital couldn't get them out fast enough and had to start keeping them in the cold storage unit in the kitchen. Yum! They would keep the ground beef next to the soon-to-be ground beef. Since this lovely getaway's closure, there have been many paranormal investigators that have gone to check out this ghost place, and this place is a ghost goldmine. Not only has there been countless sightings of ghosts, but a reoccurring beast known as the Creeper. It's said to be a man that runs on all fours with no face. Blah. Number 5. Area 51. This is probably the most famous one on the list. Area 51 is of course the top secret American military base in the middle of the desert out in Nevada. If I ever get on a plane to Nevada, it will be for Las Vegas. I'd rather lose my life savings playing blackjack than find out aliens are real and then get killed for it. The thing is, no one really knows what goes on in Area 51, but there have been many leaks. The biggest is that the United States uses the base to keep and test alien technology, and that they have living aliens there which they experiment on. There's even rumors that Area 51 has been compromised by the aliens that were being held there and now control it, shifting the direction of humankind with their newfound power. But like I said, I don't know, and I don't want to know. Next time I'm over in Vegas, the only place you'll find me is putting on 20 pounds at a buffet or singing along at the Britney Spears Vegas show. Number 4. Snake Island. I know there's some guy out there with a ponytail whose nipples probably got hard just at me saying Snake Island. He's probably picking out his favorite sword from his collection to go out on an expedition. Anyway, Snake Island is right off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this place lives up to the reputation. There's approximately 1 snake for every square feet of island, and they aren't harmless garden snakes. Most of the snakes on the island are vipers, known for being venomous and having extremely large fangs. Snake Island used to be connected to the mainland and was just a regular old place, but then a flood disconnected it. A large amount of snakes were isolated there and they started thriving. This sounds like an abandoned script for the Anaconda movie with Ice Cube and Jennifer Lopez. Number 3. Seguin Island. Off the coast of Maine is Seguin Island. It's approximately 64 acres and almost completely abandoned. It has some visitors here and there, but there's almost no one who lives on the island. So if you ended up shipwrecked there, or for some reason there's a crazy killer on the island and he wanted to chop you up, then there'd be a good chance that no one would ever find you. But that's not even the creepiest part about this place. It's home to one of the oldest lighthouses in history. No one has lived in this building for quite some time, but it said when people come to visit, there have been many ghostly sightings. Some people say they can hear a little girl's laughter and piano playing. There have also been sightings of a ghostly old man that gets furious because all his furniture is gone. The audacity of some people. You die for 100 years and people just start moving all your stuff out. Number 2. Miyakojima Island. What did Pompeii teach us? Never live around volcanoes. They can blow at any moment and wipe out everyone. Well, it taught us that and what some people choose to do in their final moments.
So there was a famous picture taken by Professor Massimo Osana that shows a man with his right hand above his genital area.
You know what they say, live by the sword, die by the sword. Well, the people of Miyakojima Island must have not got the memo because they all live at the base of a volcano. Every resident who lives on this island must own a gas mask because they're at constant risk of being covered in a gigantic cloud of deadly ash at any time. This is how the island got its nickname, Gas Mask Island. Also, if you make the risky choice to move to the base of an active volcano, you should get used to the sounds of sirens. There are sirens all over the island that will screech out to tell you it's time to put on your gas mask. Number 1, Island of the Dolls. Alright, we're gonna wrap up this list with a place that is dedicated to one of the creepiest things around. Dolls. The Island of the Dolls is located in Mexico, just south of Mexico City. The story behind this American Girl store meets House of a Thousand Corpses is there was a man who lived on this tiny island. One day he found a girl's dead body floating in the river, and not far away from it was a doll which he suspected belonged to the little girl. He then hung the girl's doll from a tree as a way to calm her spirit and continued to do so with every doll he could find. The twisted end to this story is that the man eventually was found dead in a spot not far from the girl's body was found.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Stairway to Heaven. The Stairway to Heaven, or the Haiku Stairs, is a very steep hiking trail that was closed in 1987. It was closed because of lack of maintenance of the trail and it was deemed unsafe. It's considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails, but that didn't stop 18-year-old Dalen Pua from hiking out there. On February 27, 2015, Dalen went out for a hike. He had previously told his grandmother, who he was visiting, that he wanted to do so, but she warned him against it. Also, you can get charged if you do trespass. But that didn't deter Dalen. On that day, he told his grandma he was going out for a hike, but she didn't think he would dare to go there. She was wrong. The last time anyone saw him was around 11 AM when he sent a photo to his family of him at that location. He never returned home. Of course, there are a number of theories as to what happened to him. Maybe he fell while on the hike, since the area is dangerous. But then again, his body or bones were never found. Another theory is that he was kidnapped or killed by someone. In the photo he sent to his family, it said you can see a man lurking in the foliage. Was this his killer? Sadly, we might never solve this case.
Number 9, Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The castle-like Eastern State Penitentiary took solitary confinement to whole new levels when it was built in 1829. Prisoners lived alone, exercised alone, and ate alone. When inmates were left in his cell, a guard would cover his head with a hood so he wouldn't be seen. The prison had to abandon its solitary confinement system due to overcrowding from 1913 until it was closed in 1970. Although the forms of punishment did not get any less severe, chaining an inmate's tongue to his wrists, that's just one example, a true story. The site's one of most haunted places in America right now. Well, it welcomes thousands of visitors every year, both for its museums and annual Terror Behind the Wall celebration, which features 6 haunted attractions within the prison walls for Halloween. When you talk about an attraction inside of a prison, no thanks. Well, it was reported paranormal happenings have included dismembered laughter, shadowy figures, and pacing of footsteps. Sorry, I thought I was hearing footsteps behind me right now. Okay, I'm pretty freaked out with this one, so let's move on to the next one. So next up, number 8, we have House of the Seven Gables, Salem, Massachusetts. Now, this house did not steal its name from the classic novel. In fact, it inspired the novel itself. Salem is known for its history of the famous witch trials, and that's where Sabrina Spellman lived, but it happens to be the birthplace of Nathaniel Hawthorne, who used this 17th century house as inspiration for his famous 1851 novel, The House of the Seven Gables. Aside from its beautiful yet spooky facade, the house is surrounded by paranormal activity and ghost sightings, all based on personal experiences of staff. Every October, the house offers spooky tours as well as weekly performances of 2 plays. The Legacy of the Hanging Judge and Spirit of the Gables. Would you guys see a play in a haunted town's haunted house? Coming in hot at number 7 on this list, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park. If you've read or seen The Shining, you know the feeling of this often snowbound hotel. It's the location Stephen King based his Overlook Hotel upon. It may not look like the film unless you watch the 1990s made-for-TV movie version, which, yeah, I don't think anyone has. I mean, just walking to your room can drain you. So one stiff drink might have you seeing ghosts, or a couple kids chanting, "Red rum, red rum." Number 6, we're bringing you Red Onion Saloon, Skagway, Alaska, established in 1898. As a brothel for miners during the Klondike Gold Rush, Alaska's Red Onion Saloon, it had a feature that set it apart from other bordellos. It used dolls to help run its business, always a good sign, right? Well, every day 10 dolls would be placed on the bar downstairs, each one representing one of the ladies working in the upstairs room. A customer would choose one of the dolls, at which point it would lay down on the bar to indicate that particular workers were occupied. When the customers came back downstairs, the doll would be returned to her sitting position to let other potential clients know that she was available. Well, fast forward to 2019, when the Red Onion Saloon still operates as a bar and restaurant, yet the dolls are still on display, and it offers tours of the upstairs rooms, which are preserved as sort of like a mixed-shaped brothel museum. As if these dolls weren't creepy enough, there were reports of Lydia, a former madame of a brothel, haunting the site, complete with cold spots and lingering spells of perfume rafting through the walls. I mean, all creepiness aside, I'm more curious about how this place got named Red Onion. I mean, they could have came up with any other name. Well, let me know what you guys would call this in the comment section below. Give me a name. Alright, we're halfway on this list. Number 5, we got RMS Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. This retired ocean liner sailed the Atlantic Ocean from 1936 to 1967. During the first 3 years at sea, the Queen Mary carried Hollywood celebrities like Elizabeth Taylor. Her days as a luxurious ship were short-lived. In 1939, she was stripped of her amenities and began her second life as a Grey Ghost, a World War II troop ship. At the conclusion of the war, she was restored to her former glory and traversed the Atlantic for nearly 2 more decades. On Halloween 1967, the Queen Mary departed on her last cruise, eventually docking in Long Beach, California, her final resting place. The ship is reportedly haunted by the spirits of those who died aboard, such as the young sailor who was crushed to death by a door in the engine room and a crew member who was murdered in cabin B340. Number 4, Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast in Fall River. So this location came up on nearly every search on our quest to find this top 10 list for you guys. Well, you've likely heard of the children's rhyme Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave it to her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Well, you can not only visit the scene of that famous 1892 double homicide, you can also sleep at the Borden's home, eat their last meal, Johnny cakes, a thick cornmeal pancakes and eggs, in case you were wondering, and spend the last nights in the bedroom where the bodies of Lizzie's stepmother Abigail was found. Someone who stayed there said, "I can attest, this home painstakingly furnished to look exactly as it did on the morning of the murders. Well, that will creep you right out." Better though, the 175-year-old property hosts up to 20 overnight guests, in which some of them, for some reason, it's a tradition when you go to this place, they will actually whip out a Ouija board. I mean, I'm not down for Ouija. That is a real life situation that can happen, and let alone whipping out a Ouija board in a haunted place. Finally, down to number 3 on this list, we have Crescent Hotel, Erica Springs, Arkansas. Since its construction in 1886, the Crescent Hotel has served several purposes: luxury resorts, conservatory for young women, junior college. But the strangest mark on its history came in 1937 when it got a new owner, Norman G. Baker. Baker was a millionaire inventor who decided to pose as a doctor despite having no medical training, and turned the hotel into a hospital that can cure cancer. Well, he was eventually found out and he was ran out of town, although reports say that his spirits found its way back to the site and found some otherworldly company too. The now operating Crescent Hotel is said to be haunted by at least 8 ghosts, ranging from a 5-year-old girl to a bearded man wearing Victorian clothing. 1 ghost is enough for me, never mind 8 of them, and children ghosts, I think those were the absolute scariest kind. Number 2 on this list, Heaven's Gate mass suicide site in Rancho Santa Fe. I mean, when you have the word suicide site, yeah, no thanks, not for this brown guy. The golf course strewn San Diego suburb of Rancho Santa Fe regularly makes the most expensive zip codes in the USA. So it came a stunner in 1997 when the world learned it was the home to Heaven's Gate, a cult whose 39 members drank poisoned Kool-Aid as the Hale-Bopp comet passed Earth, believing that aliens behind the comet would rupture their souls to heaven. Yeah, really weird. I'm not making this stuff up. Their bodies were found dressing in black sweatshirts and sweatpants, Nike sneakers, faces covered with purple cloth, and carrying $5.75 in one pocket. A toll of people speculated to catch a ride on the comet. And number 1, we have Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, Western West Virginia. This foreboding asylum began construction in 1858 and opened to patients in 1864. The massive structure was designed by architect Richard Andrews to maximize sunlight and fresh air. It was believed that the building itself would serve as a healing environment. It was designed for 250 people housed and 2,400 patients in crowded conditions. I mean, that's a pretty big range going from 250 to 2,400. Patients were physically restrained and often given inhumane treatments such as the electroshock therapy and lobotomies, which was very popular back in the day. After more than a century in operation, the facility was forced to close in 1994, which when you think about it wasn't too long ago, within the last 30 years. And it was due to the reforms in mental health and treatment and the deterioration of the building. Hundreds of patients died during the asylum tenure, and scores of guests and ghost hunters have claimed they're seeing shadowy figures roaming around the facility.